Today, we're diving into the complex, unspoken language of the Chinese dining table. It's a world where pretty much every single action is a message, and if you don't know the rules, you're gonna get lost. So let's decode it together.
You know, this ancient quote from the philosopher Xingzi really sets the stage perfectly. What he's saying is that Chinese table manners aren't just about, being polite. They're seen as the actual foundation for social order, for success, even for peace. This is serious business. And that right there is the core idea we're going to explore. You have to forget everything you know about Western-style individual dining. A Chinese meal is a communal performance. Every single gesture, where you sit, how you hold your chopsticks, who pays the bill, it all sends a powerful signal about your status, your respect for others, and frankly, your character.
So let's start with the most critical element of all, the seating arrangement. Because in Chinese dining, before anyone even thinks about picking up their chopsticks, the layout of the table has already drawn a crystal clear map of power and respect. This is rule number 1, the big one, the seat of honor. This is the focal point for the entire meal. By facing the entrance, this person gets a commanding view of the whole room. So if you're placed here, it's not subtle. It's a clear statement, you are the most important person at this table.
So you see how this creates a kind of social map, right? The guest of honor is the center of gravity. The host sits right opposite, often with their back to the door, so they can handle the servers and the bill without a fuss. And then everyone else is placed in a very clear pecking order, radiating outwards. The closer you are to that seat of honor, the higher your status. Simple as that. And it doesn't matter what shape the table is, this basic principle holds true. Whether you're at a big round table or a more traditional square one, the logic is exactly the same. The hierarchy just flows out from that number one spot, creating this consistent, visible order of importance.
Okay, so everyone's seated according to rank. Now what? Well, let's talk about the tools of the meal. The lazy Susan, the chopsticks, these are not just for eating. How you handle them is seen as a direct reflection of your upbringing, your self-control, and your discipline. Now, the lazy Susan, it might look like a convenient free-for-all, right? But oh no, it is not. It has its own strict protocol. You only turn it clockwise. You always wait for the senior person to take from a new dish first. You never spin it while someone else is getting food. And that last point is so key. Parking a really good dish, like the lobster, in front of yourself is seen as incredibly greedy. It causes a huge loss of face, that all-important concept of social prestige and honor. And this brings us to chopsticks, which carry an immense amount of cultural weight. They're not just utensils. They're seen as an extension of your hands and, by extension, your discipline and your moral character. And with chopsticks comes the most serious taboo of the entire meal. Okay, listen up, because this is the one rule you must never, ever, ever break. Sticking your chopsticks straight up in your rice bowl is the single biggest offense you can possibly commit at the table. And here's why it's such a big deal. The image it creates, well, it's a direct visual echo of the incense sticks that are burned in offerings for the dead at a funeral. It's a powerful and deeply somber symbol. The consequence for doing this is severe. It's not just considered rude, it's seen as a bad omen, almost like a curse wishing death upon your hosts and everyone there. It immediately tells everyone you have a poor upbringing and causes a major loss of face for the entire table. And the rules don't stop there. This slide gives you a quick rundown of other big no-nos. You don't dig through a dish looking for the best parts. That's called grave digging. You don't tap your bowl with them, because that's what beggars used to do. And using an uneven pair of chopsticks, that's another death taboo, because it brings to mind the image of a coffin. See? Respect for your tools is absolutely paramount. All right, let's talk about what's in your cup, because drinks have their own rich, silent language. Tea and alcohol are used to communicate respect and status, often without anyone saying a single word. Take the Finger Kowtow. It's a fascinating custom. When someone refills your teacup, you don't say thank you and interrupt the conversation. Instead, you just tap the table. The story goes that this started with an emperor traveling in disguise. To thank him for a refill without blowing his cover, his attendants would just tap their fingers on the table, which was meant to look like a person bowing. And this simple tap is incredibly nuanced. The number of fingers you use says everything about your relationship to the person pouring. If a senior person pours for you, you tap your whole fist to show the deepest respect. For a peer, someone at your level, you tap your index and middle finger. And if a junior pours for you, a single index finger is a gentle sign of acknowledgement.
It's a whole social conversation in one tiny gesture.
Now, when it comes to alcohol, especially in a business setting, you're going to hear the term Ganbei. It literally means dry cup, and that is exactly the expectation. You're supposed to finish your glass in one go. It's a powerful sign of sincerity and commitment, a way to build rapport and trust really, really quickly.
And here's the golden rule of toasting. It is the physical expression of hierarchy. When you toast someone of higher status, you absolutely must clink your glass so that the rim is below theirs. It is a non-negotiable physical act of humility that visually reinforces that social order we talked about.
Finally, we've reached the end of the meal, but don't relax just yet. The ending isn't some casual conclusion. It's a final, crucial performance where social standing is cemented and generosity is put on full display. One of the rituals that confuses outsiders the most is the fight for the bill. This is not a real argument. Think of it as a choreographed dance of politeness. The host, the one who invited everyone, is expected to pay to gain that social prestige, that face. But as a guest, you are required to put on a good show of trying to pay yourself. When you eventually let the host win, you validate their generosity and you honor them. All right, two last crucial signals to stick the landing. First, staples like rice and noodles are served at the very end. They act as a buffer, signaling the meal is over. If you fill up on them early, it's a subtle insult, like you're saying the main courses weren't enough. Second, unlike the clean plate club we have in the West, you should always leave a little bit of food behind. This proves that your host was so generous they provided more than you could possibly eat. So after all of this, the seating charts, the chopstick taboos, the silent toasts, the fight over the bill, what's the real point? What is the ultimate prize for mastering this unbelievably complex social rulebook? The answer is just one word: Guanxi. It means relationships, connections, trust. The entire performance of the meal, every single rule we've talked about, is designed to build and strengthen the social bonds that are the true foundation of business, a friendship, and a family. The food is just the medium. The real goal is always connection.